Welcome to Build, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Zoe Lister-Jones made a splash back in 2009 with the New York indie she wrote and starred in, Breaking Upwards. Since then, she's had parts in shows like Delocated, movies like The Other Guys, Band-Aid, for which she wrote, directed, and starred in, and for the last 3 seasons, she's been one of the stars on the very funny CBS sitcom Life in Pieces. Let's take a look.
I'm so excited to learn from you. How do you make your roux?
Well, obviously, Mom, it starts with the pot.
And it starts with a crab.
No, a traditional roux, you thicken the flour with some butter and milk on a low flame,
Sure.
Right? I mean, I don't know how your bubby did it, but...
Yeah, and actually, you know, it was my great bubby, my grubby.
And your great grubby, she wasn't concerned that the crab wasn't kosher?
The rabbi gave her a waiver.
Everybody, please welcome Zoe Lister-Jones. Let's hear it. Hey there.
Hello.
First question, I mean, you're in a scene there. I know it's the 3rd season, probably like the 57th or 58th episode that you're shooting there, but you're in a scene with Dianne Wiest. What was it like when you first got to shoot scenes with her? She's amazing.
Yeah, she's a national treasure. You know, I grew up as a New York Jew, so like I grew up on Woody Allen films, and
I grew up wanting to be a New York Jew, so similar.
And so yeah, Dianne Wiest has been like so legendary in my mind for so long that to be working with her still, I'm surprised every day when I see her. And she's truly like the coolest, hippest, most amazing woman.
She strikes me as the kind of actress where she has like a natural, quirky is the wrong word, and I don't, but a sort of natural personality that brings something strange to every scene. Like you don't really expect the curveballs coming, nor does she even really maybe know sometimes that she's throwing curveballs at
Totally,
people.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, her delivery is so singularly hers, which is what makes her the sort of icon that she is. And so it is really exciting to work with someone like that because you don't ever know how she's going to deliver something to you, which is, yeah, it keeps it interesting.
What's it been like to do this show for 3 seasons, 3 great seasons, this show where it's sort of really, each story is broken up into such little sections like that?
Yeah. Well, it's nice. I mean, it's nice schedule-wise as an actor.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Because, you know, every episode is in 4 short stories, and so most of my stories are with Colin Hanks, who plays my husband. And so on a good week, we're only working, you know, like 3 days, because then all the other people have to shoot their stories. But no, I mean, it's also nice because you really do sort of get to shoot it like a play almost, because you are shooting your stories in a more compacted amount of time than you would generally speaking. So you really shoot sometimes an entire story in a day or a day and a half.
For the most part, relegated to one location. I mean, I guess most sitcoms have their stories relegated to one location.
Yeah, we shoot on set on a stage in Los Angeles. So yeah, it's a really nice job.
And it gives you a lot of time, I bet, to work on your personal projects, right? Because you directed your first film, Band-Aid, which came out, what, 2 years ago at this point?
Came out a year ago.
A year ago,
yeah.
Excuse me. Wrote and directed and made all the music as well. And I assume you're working on another project.
I am, yeah. I'm in the beginning stages of a new project. It's another movie musical that I'm working on with Mark Ronson, who is one of my favorite music producers, and I've been a total fangirl of his, like since I was 20. So it's really exciting to now collaborate with someone like him, because, you know, he's responsible for like Amy Winehouse, and he produced Adele and Bruno Mars and the last Lady Gaga album. And
how do you tell someone that you're such a fan of when you're collaborating with them? How do you tell them no for the first time? In the sense
I'll
of
let
like,
you know when it happens.
Oh, really? They're like, actually not that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think with any like artistic collaboration, that's always a question of finding the language so that you can be honest while still, being sensitive and thoughtful. But he's in such a different category in terms of the world of music producing that I bow down to him. So
Well, I actually imagine that you're quite good at that, considering the first film that you wrote and starred in was made with your partner, and I'd imagine that can be a kind of minefield of figuring out sensitivities and how.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I co-wrote 4 features with my husband. That we then produced together, and I acted in, and he directed. So,
And when he's directing, does that mean that you cede a certain amount of control over to him? Like, you're going to be directing this, let's make sure this is what you want to be directing? No.
well, I mean, it's interesting because I think, and I learned this on Band-Aid too, when you write something that you're also acting in, it's a really different experience than just acting someone else's writing. Not to minimize just acting, that is challenging in and of itself, but I think because we had written these things together, I had a different sort of sense of ownership over the process. But I think we actually got to a really good place where Daryl, my husband, could direct me without it ever being sensitive or tricky. I think I really trusted him and his direction, and yeah.
How do you sort of take your writer and director hat off when you get on the set of something like Life in Pieces? Obviously, the writing here is great. Everybody is
Yeah.
one of the best writers you can get for
Yeah.
a show like this. But is it still hard to not be like, can I sort of say it like this? Or
They're totally open to that. I mean, they're really sweet and generous writers, and our showrunner Justin Adler is really awesome in that way. But the writing's so good, we don't really have to do that. But they do allow for improvisation, and if there's a line that feels like it is, I don't know, there's something off with it or something, we'll go tell them, and they'll say, okay, what do you want to say? And let's tweak it and come up with it together. But it's nice to turn off those hats because I love writing and directing and producing and starring all at the same time. It's one of like my favorite things actually that I've done in my career. But it's nice to be able to just go and have a lot of other people do all of that work.
I would imagine that you find you learn other things as well when you turn off all those hats and you can kind of watch everybody without having to instruct them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the reason why I waited the amount of time I did to direct was because I was on so many sets for so many years that I was really learning from all of the things that I was witnessing, whether it was something to mimic or something to try and avoid.
Also, directing's really scary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. It's scary, and I think it does take. It's a certain amount of confidence while also being really receptive and thoughtful to this collective, because it's your vision that is singular, but it also is so reliant on the people around you.
To be more clear, I would say directing a feature film is scary. Directing television, I think, is probably scary in its own way, but a feature film is a completely different animal.
Yeah, well, in TV, the writer is king or queen, and in film the director is really king or queen. So it is a different vibe. Yeah, and on TV too, we have a different director every episode on Life in Pieces. So they really, you drop in and you direct one, you put your stamp on it, but it's not like your baby through the course of its life.
Have you directed one?
Not yet.
Do you want to?
I do, yeah.
Have you asked?
I haven't asked yet. But I think, if we get a season 4, I think that'll be in the cards.
How do you ask something like that? What's the right approach there?
I don't know. Maybe that's why I haven't done it yet. I think it's an interesting thing, and a lot of actors do it. But
also, you've directed before, and I can't imagine they would approach your asking with the actor wants to direct here.
Yeah.
You've done it.
Totally. Yeah, I think it would just be talking to the showrunner and the producers and saying, hey, is there an open slot? I'd love to take a stab at it. Yeah.
I mean, Colin's a director as well. He's made some films.
Colin's a director, and Jim Brolin is a director. So there's a few of us in there that may step up to the plate.
What has it been like working with Colin Hanks over the last few years?
He's the worst. Nobody likes him.
He's nothing like his dad. It's really weird.
Nothing
right?
like his dad, and nobody ever wants to bring up his dad when they talk about him, which is really a shame. He loves when they do.
He immediately is like, I am not my dad.
No, Colin
I have
is,
my own career.
Colin is like one of my best friends now, and truly one of the kindest people I know, and we have so much fun together. And he's also just like a very cool dude. He's got great taste in music, and we have a lot of shared sensibilities. So it's been really fun.
He has I interviewed him, and he has a very interesting taste in music and a somewhat surprisingly encyclopedic knowledge of the music that he really likes.
Totally.
you know?
Yeah, he has like a vast record collection, and of course the movies he's directed are like music documentaries. So, and he hangs with a lot of musicians. He's in a cool crowd.
I've never been a part of those crowds. They scare me. The cool musician crowds.
Yeah. It's never too late.
Thank you. What did Colin see Band-Aid? Did he love it?
Colin was in.
Colin was in
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid. Excuse me. It's been 2 years.
He had a cameo, so it's fine. He played a character named Uber Douche, because he's always playing nice characters, and I was like, it's time to, switch it up. He saw it. He came to the premiere, and he's the most supportive. He's really been wonderful about it.
So are you writing music right now with Mark Ronson? Or are you like kind of writing stuff and...
I've been writing, I write lyrics, and then I've been giving them to Mark to just like sprinkle his fairy dust on, and then, yeah, we're really in early stages, so.
But that's still gotta be so cool to be like, hey, genius, make this great.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's what I want with like everything. I just want to be like, oh, you're a genius? Here, make this better. Yeah.
Hey, genius, take this. Just make it better.
Yeah, totally.
I'll stand in front of it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, or right next to you. Yeah.
What has been the most fun part about making the show Life in Pieces?
I think we really genuinely love each other. It's a show about a family, and we've sort of become a family while making it. And there's just not a lot of drama. It's just like a cool hang every day. We're really lucky. We hang out outside of shooting, and yeah, I would say that's probably the most fun.
Do you get to see the other cast members that often, or are you more often just sort of with Colin in your scenarios?
It's mostly Colin. Season 2, they kind of switched it up, and they were like, let's see what happens when these two are together, and like kind of like shuffled us all around. And then there's like family days. There's generally a big family day, which are long days, but they're fun because everyone gets really slap happy and does weird things.
Like what?
I don't know. Like people just like get really, because we're all usually stuck around one table, which is like the brunch table. And so people just like, well, there's a lot of like Instagram living and a lot of like, because there's different generations. So the younger generation is just like everything you do. There's like a phone in your face documenting it. And then
The kids here, you mean?
these kids.
Yeah.
She's not a kid, but she does it too. But yeah, and I think people just start making jokes, and it just becomes like a kind of wilder environment because everyone's
Director have to like settle you guys down,
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah, totally.
Settle, adults.
right.
We have to get shooting here.
The kids are like, settle down, adults. Yeah.
One of the first things that I ever saw you in was John Glazer's Delocated, a show that I loved. How did that show? I mean, that was like a low budget run and gun kind of thing on Adult Swim. I think it was the first live action show on Adult Swim, right?
Yeah, it was.
How do you think that show sort of prepared you for all of the stuff that you ended up doing afterwards? Like even something like Life in Pieces.
Well, that show required, like, the writing was really great and specific, and Glazer is a genius. But you also had to be really good at being on your toes because Glazer would improvise something or do something crazy. And there were so many great comedians on the show that I think that was probably, like, a really good boot camp for the comedy.
Don't break kind of thing.
Yeah, never broke, even though it was really hard not to. And also, I think... like grounding, because that show was quite like outrageous in terms of the circumstances that we were in, and so I think grounding even the most outrageous of circumstances in honesty and learning that actually makes it so much funnier.
When you went on to do like big comedies afterwards, did you sort of take a lot from there with you in terms of grounding stuff?
Probably. I mean, however consciously it was. I think with every project, you like learn something and take it on to the next one. Yeah.
How did you how did you take that into your film?
Oh God, there was so much time in between. It would
Can
be
you
hard.
even sometimes I wonder if it's sometimes even possible for directors. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your answer. But I wonder if it's even possible sometimes for directors to know what they've taken from things when they go into making a film, especially their first, because it's such a mad dash to kind of make the film, and you have to operate off of instinct so much.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, with Band-Aid, because I was both in front of the camera and directing, I think was really careful to be super prepared in pre-production, so that there was less that relied on instinct outside of shaping performance, which is something that I enjoyed doing like within scenes because I was acting in those scenes. So that was a cool experience for that reason. But yeah, I mean, I think everything as a writer, as an artist in any medium, you're generally sort of like taking little things that you've learned from either other artists or other experiences you've had along the way, and they shape each project you do.
How did you plan? I mean, you said you prepped really hard before shooting Band-Aid, but how did you plan when you went into scenes and you had to sort of shape that scene with your fellow actor and then also know how you were going to shoot it after the two of you kind of shaped it together? Did you know how you were going to shoot it beforehand and shape around that, or vice versa?
Yeah, the whole Band-Aid was shot all handheld.
Kind of catch it.
And we had 2 cameras going. No, so like having never played a sport in my life, but having like a vague understanding of football, I imagine that's what like my diagrams looked like, where it was like we start here, the camera follows us here, and then follows us into the kitchen. Because I really wanted the camera to almost feel voyeuristic. So I had our staging and our blocking mapped out pretty specifically, without being like, let's see if we can find this, because there just wasn't time in the day to do that. Of course, if like Adam Pally was like, I think I would rather walk this way, then we would adjust. But for the most part, it was pretty nailed down.
And you had an all-female crew.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. It's
Yeah.
a rarity that happens.
Yeah.
What made you do that? And will you do it again for the next project?
You know, I had just witnessed, both being in front of the camera and behind the camera, the severe underrepresentation of women on film and TV crews. And there was a lot of talk about gender inequity in the entertainment industry, but the numbers weren't changing in terms of representation. So I just felt like I was finally in a position to actually do something about it. And I knew that if I didn't go whole hog and hire an entirely female crew, I would fall like into the same traps that so many productions fall into, which is that you're like, I'll hire as many women as possible, but then the DP's, favorite first assistant camera is a dude, and everyone has all these people and these working relationships that they trust, and then you kind of go down this spiral where then women just don't get hired, especially in camera and lighting and electric departments. So I drew kind of a hard line in the sand, and it was incredible. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I absolutely would do it again. I've done it again a couple of times, not in movies, but we made a music video for the Dirty Dishes, which is the band that we have in the Band-Aid, which was all female, and then I just shot a Vogue, of like a little thing for Vogue.com, which had an all-female crew. So. Yeah.
Now, oftentimes when people talk about hiring all-female crews or more women, the argument that's put forward by lazy men is that, well, it's hard to find women. There aren't enough women.
Totally.
Did you find that it was hard to find the women to staff these crews?
I wouldn't say it's hard to find women. I think it's about a level of experience that makes productions of a certain size feel comfortable. And that's such a catch-22, right? Because like if a woman is not given the experience, if the door isn't open to her to gain the experience, then she can't have the experience to be hired. So that was another sort of reason for me where I thought, well, let's take the quote-unquote risk on someone that might have less on her resume than her male counterpart, because if that doesn't happen, then she never gets in the door later. There are many, many talented women who are available to work. Yeah.
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who's a question? Right here.
Hi.
So I love Band-Aid, and
Oh, thanks.
I liked Do you feel that there are any similarities with that character and this character in Life in Pieces, since they're both kind of in families or have family issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some similarities. I think just because I play both of them, probably there's like certain similarities to my portrayal of just like women that are my age.
Similarity is you.
The similarity is probably just me. I think the circumstances are really different. You know, in Life in Pieces, my character has a kid and is a lawyer and is a very accomplished mother and career woman. And in Life in Pieces, my character is really lost and has just suffered a miscarriage and
Band-Aid.
sorry.
No,
in
no, that's
Band-Aid.
okay. I just wanted to, yeah.
just whoops. Yeah, in Band-Aid. So I think they are quite different as characters. Yeah.
It's like the lighter touch for you and a bit of a heavier touch in
Yeah.
Band-Aid.
Yeah, I think so.
Next question, I think one more.
Hi. I was just wondering, do you find it more of a challenge being able to like create content as a director and a writer, or just being able to portray a character on screen?
It's definitely more difficult to create content, especially independent content. You know, like to get a movie off the ground is it's difficult in some ways. I mean, there's a lot of resources at all of our fingertips now with technology, and if you can just like get a crew together, you can kind of go make anything. But if you're trying to do something at a certain level and attract a certain, level of talent and get it seen and get it out there and theatrically released, yeah, it's really challenging. So, I mean, acting has its own challenges, right? Like, just to get a job as an actor is really hard, too. The whole industry is just terribly difficult and often depressing. But then sometimes, you can do it. I think so much of what being in this industry is about, whatever you're doing, is learning from rejection but not letting it stop you from creating, because there's so much more rejection than there is acceptance along the way.
What was it like when you got the part for Life in Pieces?
Oh, it was great. It was great. I was offered the part, which was really amazing. It was the first time that had happened for me. So that was really nice, because testing for television shows is kind of daunting. You have to
Very long-winded, right? Like it can take a while.
Yeah, you have to like go and like do it in front of like rooms full of suited people, and and so that was really nice. And the cast too. I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to work with all of these amazing people. Yeah.
Well, I love the show. Congratulations. I look forward to your
you.
next project with
Thanks.
Mark Ronson, whatever it may be.
Thanks.
And Life in Pieces on CBS. What night is it on?
It's on Thursdays at 9:30.
Thursdays at
8:30
9:30.
Central.
And there's a few episodes left of this season, right?
Yes. Tomorrow is our second to last, and then next week is our season finale.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Everybody, Zoe Lister-Jones, let's hear it.
Thank you.